Oh man, this one is going to be bittersweet, guys. It's going to be bittersweet. Um, let's get this thing going. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discussing Trek. Today, we're here to review the finale. By finale, I mean finale of Star Trek Discovery, Life Itself. And with me to review this, I have none other than Larry Irby. Larry, how are you doing, man? Discoed out today, huh?
I am ready to do this.
Oh man, yeah, me too. Yeah, I can't wait to get into the details. And also on the podcast, we have none other than Cal Jones. How you doing, sir?
Bittersweet. You're 100% right. I procrastinated for days watching this. I just watched this last night, so it's fresh on my brain. But yeah, can't believe we're finally at the end of Discovery. So looking forward to talking to you about it, but not ready to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I historically get sad at the end of these series. And you famously have not watched the end of the Sarah Jane Adventures. You've
Yes.
saved the last episode because you just can't pull yourself to watch it.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I know this is a Doctor Who reference, but I hate endings. I don't
mm,
like it, and I don't like endings, and I will procrastinate and not watch. This was hard to watch. I had to make myself watch it. And
mm,
honestly, if we weren't doing the podcast, I don't think I would have.
oh man, yeah, well, in it all, we'll get to it, but hopefully there's good news of seeing some of these people again in other shows. So I don't think it's over, but yeah, of course, Star Trek Discovery, the show, is come to an end. Like to say hello to Win Grace and Tasha in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. And I can't wait to get into this discussion. I know there's news we're not going to cover today because I feel like there's probably so much with this episode that we have to get through. So we'll come back to news next week. Some pretty big news, mind you, on the horizon. But we'll talk about that next week. But let's get into this episode, Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episode 10, Life Itself, the series finale. Trapped inside a mysterious alien portal that defies familiar rules of time, space, and gravity, Captain Burnham must fight Moll and the environment itself in order to locate the Progenitors' technology and secure it for the Federation. Meanwhile, Book puts himself in harm's way to help Burnham survive, and Rayner leads the U.S.S. Discovery in an epic winner takes all battle against Breen forces. The episode was written by Cal Jarrow and Michelle Paradise and directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi. Cal, if you will lead us into that spoiler warning, sir.
All right. So, for everyone listening, if you have not seen this episode, if you do not appreciate the mavity of this episode, put us on pause. Thanks, Windgrace. Put us on pause. Go out, watch the episode, come back because from this moment forward, spoilers.
The spoiler warning has been dropped, and we are back to talk about this episode. And like always, we go right back to Mr. Jones for the beats of the episode. Sometimes serious, sometimes comedic. Quite honestly, you never know. Mr. Jones, do you have anything for us today? I'm hoping it's not comedic because this was a heavy episode,
So,
man.
what
So
do you
what do you?
guys think?
I think it's going to be serious.
All
I don't
right,
think.
Larry, what do you think? Comedic?
I'm going serious.
Serious. All right, so bear with me for a minute because this one actually I think is the longest one I've ever written.
Oh boy.
So I just thought it was appropriate since this is what we started this podcast with, and now this particular series. I mean, of course, the podcast is not ending, but the series here is coming to a close. So, with that said, if it's often said that it's not about the destination, but the journey, where you go, what happens to you, and who you meet along the way. If anything, this series made us look at old things under a new lens, reminded us that while we think we know the full story, there may sometimes be other layers which we are unaware. Looked forward to the future and at the same time back to the past at strange new worlds. Reminded us to be more open minded and not always judge a book, no pun intended, by its cover. Appreciate the now because in a series or a season is not always forever. Unlike most series, characters did come and go in these 5 seasons along this journey. And as did the story and we in fandom, we went along this journey, this trek, on a quest of discovery.
Mm. Truer
Dum
words,
dum
man.
dum.
Truer words. Larry, give us your high level thoughts of the series finale of Star Trek Discovery.
As I said, I have notes. Um, well, first of all, I thought it was a very good finale. It was very good.
Mm.
The story, not good.
Ooh, okay, okay. Out the gate, we fighting. Let's go, let's go.
So that's my high level. I enjoyed it. I was warm. I teared up, but I did not like the way we resolved this season.
Ooh, okay. I think we're gonna have a little of a battle here tonight. Cal Jones, high level thoughts of this finale episode.
All right. So, Larry Irby, with all due respect, you are a friend, but 100%, I disagree with you because loved this finale compared to some of the other finales we've had. I thought of not with the clip at the end, this epilogue that we had at the end. This was the most satisfied that I personally felt in a season finale, probably since the first and second seasons. The first and second seasons, I think if I were to rate which seasons I like better in Discovery, first, second, and fifth come before third and fourth, in my personal opinion. I kind of liked it. I know we'll probably get into it more, obviously, but overall, I really enjoyed both the finale as well as the epilogue at the end. Clarence Brown, what do
Yeah,
you
man,
think?
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I thought, as far as wrapping up this story, wrapping up this quest that we had this entire season, I think they did a good job of that. And when you really think about it, you think of this quest for this technology that's supposed to be the end all of everything. How many different ways can you actually resolve that? We had proposed that maybe it would be let's all come together type ending, which, excuse me, which it I mean, kind of maybe was a little bit, but I think it was the natural conclusion for this type of story, for this type of thing that is otherworldly, other universally, this power that's just so great. I feel like getting there, the explanation we got, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed every other aspect of this episode too, with Saru, with Rayner. I think all of that was interesting and well thought out. So, could it have been more epic? As far as when once we go through the portal and we see the Progenitor tech, maybe. But as a cerebral or a high-minded idea, I thought they did a good job of giving me a satisfying resolution. I was satisfied at the end of it. And as you said, Cal, as far as bringing a finality to the season, this may be one of the few that they, and for great reasons, because the end of the series. But even before we get to the coda, I think I was satisfied with what we had. I thought it was a great way to wrap up this overarching story. I can't wait to hear Reinhardt's thoughts and his qualms, because I feel like I may agree with you on some stuff. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say. But we start the episode inside the portal, inside this pocket dimension thing, whatever you want to call it, and we're headed toward the Progenitors tech. Let's start off right there. What do we think of the look and feel of this infinity room or portal that we were in at the beginning of this episode? I thought it was some pretty cool stuff. What did you guys think?
You go
Cal?
ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Cal.
So for me, thinking about it, I'm going to use two Marvel concepts that at different times this reminded me of. The 1970s Doctor Strange, the look of some of the places that Doctor Strange went to. There was, what standing upside down in one room might be, or one thing might be a forest and the other one might be fire, and this very, again, no trying to go to Doctor Who, but this wibbly wobbliness of reality, I thought very much made me think of psychedelic Doctor Strange. The other thing that it reminded me of is a character in the X-Men called Magic, and this limbo dimension that she is the master of this limbo dimension. That's what it kind of reminded me of, a hodgepodge psychedelic thing. That's my feeling.
What did you think, Ryan Hart?
I thought it was beautiful, absolutely stunning the way they
Yes.
looked. I've said this before. This is the most beautiful show they've ever done.
Yes.
I mean, even still, even though they're being done at the same time, I still think that the visuals on Discovery are just a tad better than Strange New Worlds. I'm not sure what the reasoning is for that, but it was amazing when they got there. Um, don't know if I quite agreed with how it worked because I was like, it's kind of confusing.
W- Do you think it was a good explanation as far as how the progenitors may have seeded life throughout the galaxy?
I'll tell you this, and I don't know if you or Kyle ever see the movie Contact
Hmm.
with Jodie
Yes.
Foster.
Love it.
Phenomenal movie. They borrowed a page from that because I love when the progenitors basically say, "Yeah, we didn't create this. Somebody else created this." And I love that's like in Contact where you meet the alien and they said, you did all this to reach us. Said we didn't create this. Somebody else. We don't know who. So that already gives you that there's people out there who are even more advanced than the progenitors.
Yes, and that's got to be one of my biggest takeaways. If you're going to put something, put a pillar down, one of my biggest takeaways from this episode is we go through Star Trek and we try to figure out and analyze and, go Strange New Worlds, discover. We had this whole arc this season of Colbert, and he's looking for the meaning of life and hung up on not knowing the unknown. And this was a great lesson or theme in this episode of that. You might not know all the answers. You might not even need to know the answers. I guess Cal said in his up front is about the journey, and I really love that. So, yeah, a great job there. The idea that we go through all this season, this treasure hunt, this chase, and then the tech isn't even originated by the progenitors, I thought was just a great touch because we go through all this just to know, to get an answer, and we still told we don't know the answer. And usually with something like that, it might make me mad or might make me a bit upset, but in this, I think the way it was told in the story and laid out, it just made sense. It made sense. The more you try to understand what God is or who the creator is, you really find out you're just kind of probably scratching the surface. So great job of that in this episode.
So, adding on to what you said, regardless of what religion you are and what your belief systems might be, when you do have a story present something as the originator of whatever, I like how they wrapped this into another unknown, because it doesn't say definitively the progenitors created everything, and that takes away the concept of there being a higher power or being God
Mm.
or whatever you want to reference it as. It reminded me, and this has been probably 30 years almost since I read this book, but there was a Wonder Woman novel that I read back in the 90s. And there was somebody that was a reporter talking to Wonder Woman and was asking her about her belief system of worshiping Greek gods, and actually said, "But what about God?" And her response was, "Well, I will tell you what Athena always said to me: who created them?"
Mm.
And
Mm.
very similar vein. So I really like how they did that in Discovery. Loved how they did it.
Yeah, I really love this infinity space they were in. I loved seeing all these different windows into these different worlds, and when we get in that fight between Moll and Burnham, we kind of dive into each of them, just for a few seconds. But I thought that was fun. I thought that was an interesting way to, throw a lot of sets at us in a very short amount of time,
Mhm.
and kind of go to different places. I really enjoy that. And one thing I know this noticed this episode that I hadn't really noticed before is they've kind of abandoned the tricorder completely because now they have like a computer on them. Uh, so I just kind of came to that realization this episode. Oh, they just carried a computer everywhere, which she's
Doesn't
been
it
doing
say
all.
tricorder mode?
Do it?
I think the computer says
Oh,
tricorder
does it?
mode. I
Oh,
think
Yeah.
so.
cool, cool, cool. But yeah, I really love that where the computer is kind of now, albeit maybe a very dumbed down version of the ship's computer, but I love that the computer is kind of with them all the time. It's like a different character. So I noticed that this episode and really enjoyed it. Let's talk about Maul a little bit in this episode. To me, and would love to know your opinion, Reinhardt. To me, she kind of started to dive into what we had accused um, Rayuna of being mustache twirly. She just felt kind of different, even from the onset in this episode. When she comes and she shoots
Hmm.
the Breen that she came in there with, I kind of just didn't understand the slight tweak in her character in this episode. Is it just her being hell bent on saving Locke, or what's going on with her? It just felt different for me in this episode.
I think it was honestly a combination. It was almost like, okay, we're kind of done with your character, but you still have to be here.
Mm,
That it almost felt that way because it almost felt like let's just go by numbers. Towards the end, I thought I saw a little of the mall that I really liked because this actress is fantastic. Number one, love her. Uh, but yeah, there for a little bit, it was like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do whatever I can to save him. I'm gonna do anything, and it's like it just got. It was a little over the top,
yeah.
you know but at the same time, I did think, when they both get to the technology, and she turns on Burnham,
Yeah.
I kind of got that sense of, yeah, I want to do this to bring him back. And the sad thing being, you could bring him back,
Mm,
but he won't be the same person. He'll just be a copy.
such a great twist.
Mm.
Kyle, what did you think about that?
So I didn't feel the twirling of the mustache for her. What I actually felt was, what if I were put in this world that doesn't make sense? I sense more desperation than maniacal. And I felt that she was in this headspace of, I've worked so far and I've done so much to get where I'm at. And now I'm at the finish line. What am I going to do?
Mm.
I saw more of a desperation totally than maniacal.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off the idea that you mentioned, Larry, that they could bring him back, but basically it would be like a clone of Locke, and not it wouldn't retain the consciousness, which I found kind of funny because we went through a whole season or three seasons of
Picard.
Picard.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say
That's
it
the
because
whole
I thought
point.
the same thing.
Yeah, I'm like, well, just recreate his body and we'll try to put his consciousness back in
Now,
later.
granted, they did transfer. Well, yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense, but I get why they did it. And like I said, I was take my biggest problem was we kept hearing about this power. This
Mm.
power. No one person should have this kind of power. This power is too great for anybody to possess. But I didn't feel they ever showed me the power.
They didn't, but they gave us dialogue.
I know, but I wanted to. You know what the rule is? If you can show, don't tell. And I at least
True.
wanted to see, even if it was a flashback of the progenitor showing Michael what it took to make a world and how they did it. I wanted to see that and then go, yeah, yeah, nobody can have that. No.
But by the very nature, the progenitors chose to use it only to create life. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think the progenitor that we meet said it can be used to create life or other things, but she said they chose only to use it to create life, if I'm remembering
Yeah, no, no,
correctly.
you're remembering it correctly. And what about this? Not saying that the tech isn't anything that it is, but could it also be this legend of the tech be sort of like the mailbox or mailman game that kids often play where you tell, so you've got 10 kids and you tell the story to the first one, and by the time it gets over to the last one it's completely different. So what if part of this story of how great the progenitors check tech is not because it's so great, but it's the myth around the tech?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I would say
Mm,
that, but these scientists were so hell bent on keeping this technology secret. And from a scientific point of view, I mean, even we saw Stamets saying, "Oh, we need this tech; it could change the world." Um, I can see why they had to guard it so closely, and the fact that it's kind of placed upon one person because Burnham becomes the steward of the technology once she makes it there. The fact that it is placed on one person, it could instantly kind of be, kind of go out of control very quickly. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little torn on the whole technology thing. I think I
The
liked it though. I liked how it was explained.
the the decision was a perfect decision. Like if you have something like that, and we're talking like something that was, I mean, there's nobody that we've ever seen in Trek that's more powerful than the Q. The Q are
Yeah,
hands down the most
yeah,
powerful. I mean, they could literally, you could die and they could bring you back the same way you are. So they're far more powerful than the progenitors or
yeah.
whoever even made this tech. But I did love like when Stamets went the scientist on me. I love Anthony Rapp anyway. And he goes, "Boy, you crazy? We could do," and,
You-
and it's just like, hold on. Remember what they said. The road to hell is paved
with
with the
good
best
intention.
intentions.
Yeah. Uh, and just speaking of Burnham's journey, I just found the fact that she became the steward of this technology pretty crazy, going from mutineer to steward of the progenitor tech that can create and destroy life. I just like one heck of a journey for that character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I loved what the progenitor told Burnham as we kind of got that montage um, near the middle of the episode where the progenitor said, "You must ask yourself what is most meaningful to you. There are, of course, many possible answers. Some find meaning in advancement of science, stamets. Some find some in devotion of duty, some through connection and love, others in beauty of the unknowable, some in family and community, um, in their capacity to change." So the way she kind of broke it down in that little speech there kind of echoed the whole season to me. And as they like show different characters, I think it was just spot on and just great writing in my opinion from the Discovery writers. So let's pick up a few comments before we kind of move on a little bit. Tasha says, makes me think of religion in a way. Are you talking about the pretender tech specifically, or how it's kind of was used in the or not used in the episode? And Wingrace is saying that just show the scene from Hitchhiker where they recreate Earth. Okay. Um, and yeah, I agree, Retney. There's a lot to unpack this week. Yeah, we're gonna try to keep it at an hour. We're gonna see. Um, yeah, and we do get sort of and Cal. We like to talk about relativity in this podcast, but there's a moment where Burnham gets to see all of creation from beginning to end and everything in all one moment. Some pretty cool images in that moment as well as we get to see a few iterations of Burnham. We get to see Burnham before being a mutineer, Burnham as a mutineer, and then another scene of her a little bit older, and we get to see baby Burnham too. I think at one
Yeah,
point in
and
that
young
montage.
girl Burnham. Yep.
So was there an Enterprise Easter egg in that montage? I
Oh
thought I
yeah,
saw like the
you did.
Enterprise. Did
You did. I think you did.
Yeah.
You did. You saw, I think, some of the scenes from the opening credits. You know,
mm,
some where there's a shuttle blasting off. I think
yeah,
that
okay.
that's what had a you know Enterprise feeling to me.
Yeah, I thought that was so freaking cool. Meanwhile, outside of the progenitor tech, we have Rayner attempting to hold off the Breen dreadnought. What do you guys think of Rayner's command? What do you think about how he actually
I
was able to
thought he
orchestrate the
was
battle?
I thought he was really good. I I I like how they let him settle in and they didn't have because at a point it just gets old going back and forth arguing. These people are professionals, number one, and I think they have a mutual respect. And Rayner just did what he had to do. I mean, remember, he is technically, to me, he is a Starfleet captain,
Yes.
so he knows what he's doing. He's been in these situations. He's technically been a captain longer than Michael has.
Yes. Yeah.
you know
Definitely.
if you look at it from that point. I enjoyed the interaction with the crew. um like I said, I would have liked to have the original crew there, but we all know they weren't available.
Yeah, I was looking it up. The actor who plays Osunsanmi did a Paramount Plus movie for Canada, a few years back when this was shooting. So yeah, that's what she was doing. But yeah, it was interesting having that crew and none of them being, or most of them not being the ones we love the most. So
But I have to give kudos to the actors who came
yeah,
in and made that crew in the last season. They oddly, even though were yearning for these other faces, they were oddly familiar by the end of the season. So it wasn't like they were rejected. So they fit well, and I think they performed what limited roles they had very, very well.
so Larry, I have to ask: did you roll your eyes as did I when they saw the plasma cloud? Because I kind of knew what was coming instantly when they was like, "Oh, let's lure them in that plasma and ignite it." I thought that was
Yeah.
yeah, just so cliche, so cliche,
Well,
man.
hey, not till you played Star Trek Online, man. I love see. I played. There's a story where you're in the Badlands, and that's one of the way you destroy the Cardassians. Come after you. You ignite the clouds around them and blow the ship up.
Mm.
But yeah, it was cliche. But I mean, it was okay.
Kyle, let's talk about Book and Culber. Culber tags along on the away mission on the shuttle to secure the progenitor tech. First of all, were you kind of surprised he came along? But and also, how did you feel about him as he kind of reflected on being Janal and used that to their advantage in the end there?
in, Weirdly interesting but comforting at the same time. I don't quite understand the how he knew. I mean, I get that he was merged consciously with this other being for a while and this is a residual. I get the science behind it, but how he knew that particular when to act and how to act, I didn't quite understand that. But what I did enjoy was I like this friendship that has
Yeah.
seemed to have evolved between these two characters. Not saying that I wouldn't see them normally being friends by any shape, form, or fashion, but I just like the fact that you started off as strangers and didn't try to force a friendship. It seemed like this mutual respect then is growing amongst, and I think that's cool because we don't you really see friendships grow in series. Like in Voyager, you had Harry Kim and you had Tom Paris, but you knew from the very beginning that these two
Yeah.
were buds. You know,
Yeah.
it was established from the very beginning. You didn't have them grow us into a friendship along the way. That's what I liked.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
yeah, I was gonna say, number one, just a shout out to Wilson Cruz. He's just amazing. The man's truly amazing. And I've been watching him all the way back, to when he and Claire Danes and Jared Leto and all of them were, on so-called lives. And even then he stood out, the talent. And he really, I know Sonequa was the main driving force behind this show, but Wilson Cruz, what he gave us with Culber, his passion, his love, that he was strong, but he was also compassionate.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite
Oh yeah.
characters in Trek. And you know that is saying something.
Yeah, and the guy works out too.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
Just
just
a
a little
little.
bit. But yeah, I loved him going on the way mission. You know, his experience with Janal, of course, gave him the realization that he needed that those certain that variance in the phase actually used a tractor beam. So I loved all that. And we even got a Bones joke. He said, "I know I'm a doctor, not a physicist." In there, I laughed at that a little bit. But yeah, you know what? This season has flushed these characters out, especially in the case of Colbert, tremendously more. And it seems like just when I'm getting to know these characters, really getting to know them, even a book, really getting to know these characters, man, it's like it's over, which is really unfortunate. So yeah, I'm gonna miss these guys, man, no doubt.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was gonna say David Agella, even though he didn't start out this with the series, obviously we didn't get him till we got into the future, but I already knew the guy was a dynamite actor from watching him in the Arrowverse and other things.
yeah,
But he carried a lot of weight in these last two seasons,
he
last three
did.
seasons.
Yeah, yeah. And this season I thought he was amazing. I kind of got on my nerves a little bit last season, which I've stated before. But this season, man, he's in Dakota too, man. Oh my God, just he was good this season. He was really good. Wingrave saying that I wish they had gotten a real classic Star Trek medical mystery for Colbert. I agree. I agree. I think that would have been really good. But we're so hell bent on this overarching story, we really didn't have time for that. Maybe, maybe we'll see Colbert pop up in Starfleet Academy. I think that's a great stomping ground for any of these characters. Just or if they bring one or two in the season, I think that'll be a lot of fun and interesting for them to come back and step into these roles momentarily.
It's gonna be weird to see where this show's gonna take place, because I assume we got the epilogue where we jumped into the
Yeah,
future, and so I love that. I hate when shows just end and they end right after the thing happens. I love the fact of getting that additional story. I loved it, but I'm wondering, when is it going to be set? Is it going to be set way in the future like that, or
well, I'm thinking Mary Wiseman will still be helming. I mean, we even got
yeah?
another kind of handoff in this episode. I think she'll still be helming it, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be right around this time,
Yeah.
not too far in the distant
Yeah, I
future.
agree with that. Without getting into the finale, I mean, to the epilogue, I'm with you, Clarence. I think it's going to be in this current period.
Uh, can we talk about the Discovery trying to jump this big dreadnought ship? Now, let me ask you, Larry, didn't they do this already in the Asara arc? Didn't they jump one of her ships? It was like latched onto Discovery and they like jumped it back to Starfleet headquarters. I might be.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so why did they
I'm
think it
th-
was impossible to do it
Because
this
that
time?
ship was huge.
It was.
Man, okay. Number one, I will say this: it's 900 years, so I can't say what they did. But man, the Breen must have been eating their Wheaties over the last 900 years. Because you're gonna tell me that we were probably a jump ahead of them technologically, and they advanced. Now, granted, I get they're saying the burn happened, but come on, the burn didn't happen till like book said a few hundred years before that.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me the Breen are building stuff like that, and we still got these little teeny tiny ships?
Bigger doesn't mean better, man. What are you talking about?
And when you said I was about to say, because the Federation is about exploration, not trying to build warships, even though
Mm,
they technically are
that's
warships
they're explorers, man.
with lots
Cal,
of phasers.
lots of them, and 4-ton torpedoes. Cal, how did you feel about the saucer separation? Because one
You
of the
didn't
things
like it.
I never expected that to happen. I didn't even know it was possible. But for me, I think I loved it.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I felt like a teenager watching
Mhm.
the Next Generation saucer in that first episode. That just looked so cool watching TNG and seeing that happen because you weren't expecting it. So I thought that was a cool nod to
Yeah,
TNG and the way they did it with a storyline that to
breezy.
me seemed totally plausible
Yeah,
for one side, and then you get to see the visual of black alert, and then there it's gone. I thought it was excellently executed and a brilliant thing to see.
I'm gonna
yeah.
go hardcore geek on you.
Uh
This is hardcore geek right here. It's not for the faint of heart. You do know the saucer section was something they considered for the original show. They're going all the way back to things that Gene Roddenberry talked
oh. The
about.
separation.
Yeah, if in emergency.
Mm,
But number one, they never came up with an episode to do it. And they probably didn't have the technology to even do it
yeah,
at that point.
Or the budget.
Well, yeah, the budget, but just think about it. When we used to get in space fights, everything was close up. You never saw any ships moving around. It was like close up of the Enterprise firing,
yep.
close up of the other ship firing. Done. But yeah, it was a thing they talked about, and then they kind of retconned it in the beta canon that yeah, the Enterprise could saucer separate too. But
Oh yeah, I love this. This is my equivalent to if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Like Grace is saying, if you can detach a cell, you can detach a saucer. Yes. But it was so pretty. It was so pretty, man. And I'm gonna say this for probably the 10th time this season. The budget is on the screen. So pretty, man. Even the when they were in the actual progenitor portal, all those lilies or whatever flowers those was, it looked like Tyler the Creator's album cover actually. But yeah, it's just so pretty, man. So pretty. I'm loving it all. Let's talk a little bit about Saru in this episode. Now, for me, this was a little bit uncharacteristic, but we haven't seen Saru doing his ambassador thing all season. He's definitely, I guess, picked up some skills along the way, but did it feel a little bit too uncharacteristic
Oh,
for
absolutely not.
no, okay, let's
N-
hear it, Cal. Let's hear
No,
it.
absolutely not. I thought this was an excellent example of a character arc because if you take Saru at the very beginning with the fear of everything, and then whether it was a bluff or not, he basically pulls off his ambassadorship with look into my eyes and tell me that I am not joking or that I'm bluffing, and that intense stare that you would have never have gotten from Saru in season 1. So as looking again, character arc, I just think that that was an in-story excellent way of displaying how far this character's come. That's my 2 cents.
Larry.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Like I said, I love Doug Jones. I- Saru has a lot of Doug Jones in him. He really does. I met Doug, who is one of the sweetest, kindest people, and um, Saru, I was proud of him. I was so proud. I was like, when he's like, "Yeah, I know what I'm doing,"
Yeah.
and and Nan was like, Are you sure, sir? He's like, nah, we got this.
It was just good to have Nun back, of course. Yeah,
Oh
I love that little
yes,
touch.
love her
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Even though she didn't get to do a lot in the episode, it was just cool
She did,
having her
but
voice.
just having her there was nice though.
Yeah. It also occurred to me that uh Tahal is supposed to be this badass Breen Primarch, and she like looks into Saru's eyes and kind of tilts her head. Go back and look. The helmet is actually tilted while she's trying to figure out what's going on, like a little puppy or something. I'm like, yeah, I thought she was badass, man. She just folded so quick. I
Yeah, but
didn't.
remember, she's also textbook bully.
Mm-hmm.
And when you
Mm.
stand up to a bully and you show them you ain't afraid of them, that ain't saying you might not still have to fight them, but it's going to make them think twice.
Agreed. And on top of that, be smart enough to tell the bully, I know what you want. And if you do this, I'm going to make sure you don't get what you want. Get that personal investment. So I
Hmm.
agree with you, Larry, 100%. But also that hit them where in their pocketbook or hit them where it hurts.
Yeah, that's part that I really liked, where he's talking about trade routes. He's talking about, I got my boys over here ready to strike. He's like being a straight up politician in those moments. And for what it's worth, I think they did a great job with making him have contingencies on Tahal doing what he wanted her to do. So I thought that was well written.
Now, they didn't do this, but I was fully expecting it. I was expecting to see the spikes come out. I really, whenever he was saying, look at me, I expected to see, the reverse of the ganglia. I was expecting to see whatever they call them, the pins,
Yeah,
the spikes, or whatever.
we're predators. Accent Saru one last time. Let's talk about the choice to destroy the progenitor tech. I think we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but they bring up the edict in this speech where Burnham is talking about infinite diversity and infinite combinations has already been achieved, which I thought was a great touch. But yeah, I, I think the decision to destroy the tech was the right one. And you kind of just got to go with it. You just kind of got to go with it. Um, Now, what I didn't really get was at the end of everything. And guys, if you want to go back and cover something I'm kind of skipping over, please feel free because I know you have notes there, Larry. Uh, Maul getting recruited by Kovic. I didn't quite understand that. I guess he said she's useful, but
You didn't?
no, help me out here.
Oh my God, I will help you out on this one. Think about this. Some of the greatest story. I'm gonna throw out the film Nikita. Some
Okay.
point of somebody like Moll, rough, tumbled, been out there, been a mercenary, done all these things. But hey, if you can bring that person into your fold, you know they are capable and they are motivated. And Moll is a survivor.
Yeah.
She's proven that her whole life. Imagine what she could bring to being an agent of the Federation.
Yeah.
And look at it from this, adding on to what you said, unlike some of these cookie cutter twirl mustache twirling bad guys we've had in the past 2 seasons, she was just in the specific spot at the wrong time. She was a mercenary, she was a traitor, or whatever you want to call her, but she wasn't inherently bad, in my opinion. So, back kind of what you're saying, turn that person to work for you, not against you. Smart move.
Yeah, and let's take that to talk about Kovic. The big mystery of the series. We finally get some answers. Oh, Larry is shaking his head. Agent Daniels, anybody?
Oh my God. I was like, I'd already thought that, like privately to myself. I have no way to prove it to you, but I'd already thought that. I went, because one of my first things I said, we're gonna see Daniels when they jumped in the future.
Mm,
We're gonna see Daniels, and we get no Daniels. And I went, okay, this is his time period. He told us where he came from, so he is in this time period. Why no Daniels? And I was always kind of like, man, this sucks. Where's Daniels? At least let him make a cameo, not realizing he was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, they had their brand synergy was saying, having the the Chateau Picard and Jordy's visor there, which and mentioning that he served on Enterprise. Was that known before that Daniel served on Enterprise?
I think it was known. Well, I
Because I can't quite remember. I know that we saw him on the first
well he
Enterprise.
knows,
Yeah, of course he knows. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
because of the USS Enterprise, because that was. But yeah, I mean, just think of Daniels of Kovich slash Daniels from his point of view. He got to hang out with Jonathan Archer,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You know, you could tell he was the actor who played him before was a fanboy.
Yeah. When Kovich mentions that he's lived many lives, do you think that it's the same physical being of Daniels that we've seen before? Or if there's some otherworldly thing going on that we just don't know about Kovich? It may have been explored next season, but we'll never know. What do you think about that?
And in the words of the great Cal Jones tonight, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Remember, he said on Enterprise, I thought what's the name killed you, Captain Archer says. And he says, well, yeah, he did kill me.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Mm,
Daniels died like twice
yeah, you're right.
during Enterprise. So who knows I don't want to know. I just
Yeah.
love it.
Who
And to
knows?
me, that's crazy enough to be a story that Kovich could be behind Kovich as well. So yeah, I like that. Wingray's making some good points here. He's saying, so was Moll pregnant at the end? I don't know, but I like that. I really like that because that would have been a bit of redemption for her. Well, I don't know about redemption, but it would have been a good conclusion for her, having lost Locke, that she could still have his child and still could do some good for the Breen in Federation relationship in the end. So yeah, I kind of like that notion.
I just
What,
want to say,
go
Wayne
ahead.
Grace just said something that I agree with him on. He said it could be like in Voyager with relativity, where they had to reintegrate different
Mm,
versions
yep.
into one person. So, like he said, maybe Kovich is another version. I mean, Daniels, it sounds like he's like, I hate to reference the doctor, but it is the time travel show where he splintered throughout time.
Hmm. I'll give you a better one even than the doctor. Wow, I actually said something better than the doctor. Write that down.
I
Um,
will.
Kang. Kang is a better representation of that than the
Yes.
doctor because you've got Kang, you've got Ramatut, you've got Immortus, in different variations of all of them. Iron Lad, spoilers. So all these different versions of this same man. Case in point, Kovich kind of makes you want to ask which came first, the Kovich or the Daniels.
Mm, good point.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts on the episode itself before we actually talk about the coda? I guess the wedding was a part of the. See, I don't know where the coda begins and the episode ends. I guess the wedding was a part of the end of the episode as well. I thought that was pretty fitting. We knew that was coming. They teased it the whole season. The wedding ceremony, I thought that was good, and what I guess everyone knew from the beginning of the season that Burnham and Book would get back together. Just a beautiful moment with them on the
I wasn't
beach.
sure.
You wasn't sure, man. I think they kind of
No,
alluded
I
to it the
was
entire season,
with
but
the last episode when they said that to each other. I knew,
yeah,
but before that, they did a pretty good job. Excuse me, of saying, okay, this ran its course. Maybe we should go in different directions. So
yeah,
then the other week when she told him, I went, ah, yes.
yeah.
I wonder if we'll ever know the answer to this. And if we do, it may be 15, 20 years from now. It may be 3 weeks from now. I don't know. But I would love to know if whoever the powers that be that made the decision that we're going to end this saw this season and
Mm,
saw how it wrapped up and how it ended and maybe just said, now's the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I keep asking myself as I'm watching it, where did and Clarence, I think you corrected me in my thinking. I kept asking, where was what they recorded before
Yep.
they made the decision? And then you said no, it was all pretty much done, and then they went back and recorded some more. Well, now seeing the whole story, I'm like, this is a good wrap, in my opinion, of a
Beautiful.
series, even before, even without the, you end with a wedding and two people getting back together. Happy, happy, happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful
Yeah.
ending. Beautiful ending. Any other thoughts on the wedding and Burnham and Book on the beach at the end there, solidifying their relationship once again. If not, let's talk about the coda, man. And this is where, man, just not sad, not joy, but man, it's really emotional to watch these characters that we watched for, all these years, uh, put somewhat of a finality on their relationship. And I like the fact that we didn't come to them as old and decrepit,
Yes.
just
Yes.
old and still with a lot of life left to live. They're just older. They're like in their 60s,
And it
maybe
looked
early 60s.
believable.
70s
Both
probably.
of them, it looked believable to me.
It did.
It
It
did.
did. Thoughts on the relationship of Book and Burnham on which planet Sanctuary 4 with Molly and Alice and a son as well. Thoughts on the coda? Let's talk about it. What do you guys think, Larry? Give us your thoughts, man.
I loved it. I always say I love endings that give me more. Don't cut me off cold and then just go. I want to see, like, that was my biggest gripe with Voyager is they
Mm,
got home from the Delta Quadrant. Gold did amazing job with the books.
Mhm.
Voyager, Voyage Home, tell you what happened when they got home. But I wanted to see it on the screen, and they just kind of went, "Oh, we're home. Okay, done." I like this because we got to see their son. We got to see Book and Burnham have. Oh, the only thing I wanted, and it's not that it's only because I wanted it, as I would have loved to see Mary Wiseman, because Tilly's probably an admiral at least.
yeah,
If Book and Burnham's son's a captain, Tilly's an admiral,
yeah. Well,
and
they
I
said.
wanted to see that.
Well, we get that she's the longest tenured Starfleet Academy professor, so that's
Mhm.
pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I love that. I'm gonna let Cal speak first. Cal, you have thoughts on
Yeah,
the ending?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, I make no qualms about saying on whatever podcast we're doing, if it makes me cry, it makes me cry. And this season series finale, I started it with the Burnham and Book getting back together. That's what started it for me. But the way it was written,
Yes.
it was all so good, and I loved not seeing them with too much, prosthetic makeup and all of that. It was believable. I loved the son, the fact that he was a captain just getting started out. One decision that they made from a directing point of view, and I know I'm getting just a little bit ahead of where we're at, but when Michael was having this think back of all the different people, she saw them as she remembered them in their prime.
Mm,
I loved the fact that you saw them as they were, not trying to age them up. I really, really liked that. Because think about it, when we remember people, and even if they're still alive today, not because they're gone, but we have a mental image, and it may be when we were younger, it may
yeah.
be, you know, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, or whatever, but we have a mental image. And I thought that's what we were seeing was her mental image of how she remembers when she thinks of Tilly, when she thinks of, Culber or Adira or fill in the blank. That's what I saw, and I loved that.
Now, let me get my thoughts. But I thought Culber wasn't there for the reshoots. But if you look at the scene, well, he said
They
that he
added
wasn't.
him in.
Yeah,
They
you could tell that he kind of. They showed his face close up, but when they showed the guy that was playing him in the background, it didn't look like him quite.
Oh, I got to go back and see
uh,
that.
yeah, but yeah, like you said, Larry, they added him in. At least looks like they added him in.
Oh,
yeah,
and we
they
saw
did.
our friends that we've been wanting to see. Yes, we
Oh,
saw.
Yes.
oh yeah, that haven't
Yeah.
been here all season.
Yes, yeah.
Detmer, Owo. We even saw
Bryce.
Bryce as
Yeah.
well. So, oh man, so good.
Yeah.
Linus, the whole crew was there, man. It was very touching, and I even would have halfway liked to see some of the characters we haven't seen in a while. I mean, of course, Lorca's a bad guy. Wouldn't see him, but just maybe Giorgio. But we did get a nod to her with Burnham having Giorgio's telescope
Let's
at our
go.
house. I was like, oh
Yes,
man, it's awesome.
I
yes.
would have liked to seen President Rillick in the
Mm.
season finale too.
Yeah, she
I
wasn't there at
I
all.
thought she came in and brought a lot to the, because at first we just all thought she was going to be a bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
she turned out to not be, and I like that too. I'll say this: when this show first came on the air, where we were living, I had a friend who had recently become homeless, was living with us for a while, who's doing great now. And we were sitting here watching, and he's not a big Star Trek fan, but I was watching the very first episode, the Vulcan Hello, and I remember I'm thinking he's probably thinking I am out of my head because I was so pumped and excited. At work all day, I thought about tonight is the premiere of Star Trek Discovery. And here we are at the end,
Yeah.
and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Did they always stick the landing? I'm like with Kyle. I think this was one of the better endings of season. I still wasn't totally satisfied, but that's, we're fans. But I am thankful to them for bringing this show into our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm there with you, man. I absolutely loved it, and um, sad to see it go. Quite frankly, let me bring up Brittany's comment here saying, "I did tear up on this episode. I love the ending. Yeah, it was a very emotional ending. I mean, uh, it's just they made this ending for these characters look so idyllic and beautiful, and sunsets, and we get to see Captain Leto. Her son's a captain now. They're living their retired life in this on this beautiful planet. um
Mm.
yeah, it's just a fitting, wholesome end to the characters, these characters arcs.
And got to give a shout out. I'm saying it. Burnham's uniform, her admiral uniform, off the chain
Yes, I thought so
Yeah.
too. That was awesome.
completely. And I swear to God, they got that. They lifted that from Star Trek Online.
Really.
I'm not taking that back. Swear we got that uniform.
It definitely was a throwback to some of the older
It was
uniforms.
tight though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice.
She
I loved it.
good.
I loved it.
The Sonequa Martin Green wore it. She wore the heck out of that thing too.
When Grace saying that they finally made a really cool new uniform and badge. Yes, yes, I liked both of them. I think they were awesome. No Arium, which at least we did get to see Arium in the Face of Strange episode.
True.
We did.
So I'm glad of that at least. And finally, let's talk about Discovery's final mission. We reattach the cells, we take off the A, and
Yeah,
we set it in the nebula for 1,000 years so Calypso could be canon. What do you think about Discovery's final mission? Was this Calypso thing just a bit too much, or it made natural sense to kind of come full circle and keep canon?
it made perfect sense to me because I've already told you, when we go into the future and we're dealing with time travel, you don't understand how things happen. None of us do. And there's all these different variables. And I loved when Michael told what's her name? Zora.
Yeah,
When she
Zora.
told her, hey, you can always look up my descendants.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm.
That's
It's
cool.
like I'll be long gone. I don't know. Did they then jump her through time, or did she just sit in the nebula?
You
When
never
did
know.
Kraft finally get there?
Because it was a red directive. It was
Is
a
a
red
red
directive. We don't know
directive,
when it's going. We just know it's going to a nebula.
and she said she had been waiting there in Calypso how long?
1,000 years, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved if they would have given some nod that Aldous Hodges' character was a descendant of Burnham. That would have been awesome.
God, that would have,
That would have
wouldn't
been
it?
so freaking awesome. But was it necessary? Was it needed? I'm like tuning in to the multiversal whatever, and I'm picturing this multiversal parallel mirror universe of us sitting here talking, and I'm hearing Clarence saying something to the effect of, well, if they had have only have done this and sent, and they could, but they never did answer the whole Calypso thing. Well, they did.
I'm so
So,
glad. I'm so glad. And funny thing, I did like 5 years ago, I did a Calypso video, like a recap of the episode. But like last year, I did a 1 minute cut of that and put it on my shorts. And like all of a sudden, people have been watching it. Like, okay, you finally found it. Everybody wants to know who Kraft is. So I found that pretty cool. Picking up a few comments here real quick. Wingray said, I loved it, but I've seen some people who never watched the short tracks and were really confused. Maybe they could have stuck something in the previously on for new people. Yeah, I could see it being kind of confusing. But also, if you did know about it, be like, ooh, I got stuff to go watch. Let me go
mhm.
find that. So maybe it's a good Easter egg to go, watch Calypso at this point. And Tasha's saying that I needed that to be canon, so my wish for a complete story is still possible. Yes, yes,
I'm wondering, um, because that was one of the biggest things is everybody was see they really thought about this though. You
yes.
got to give them credit for that because a lot of people were saying, oh, it's not going to happen, and if that was in the future, then why did the Discovery look like the original
Yes, we
design
were saying it.
from the
Yeah.
first seasons? And they said, okay, here's why: because we de-evolved the Discovery, or
Well,
whatever you want to call it.
when you have a time traveling agent, uh, issuing red directives that knows how things should be, maybe he can tell you that you need to go take this stuff off and put it in his nebula because this event has to happen.
And he
So
wrote it down
That's
on his
right.
notepad and he printed it and put it in his notebook.
he put it in his binder,
Yes,
Cal.
You know,
indeed.
you know what I felt like in that moment? The most confusing movie of all time that I love, Tenet.
I still haven't
That
seen that.
that oh my god. Well, close your ears. But there's a thing. It's not a spoil, but there are things in that movie that had to happen. Like
Uh-huh.
we did this, and this, and Clarence and I are sitting having lunch, and Clarence says, "Where you going?" I gotta go, Clarence. Why? We finished. No, because we won't be here if I don't go do the thing I got to do.
Yeah, you have to go and take the Infinity Stones back to where they need to be, or we can never be in
That's
this.
that's a good
Yeah.
tie. But yeah, it's like you basically, okay, we're at the end. We're at the end for you, not at the end for me.
Yeah.
Because I got stuff I got to do to make sure we get to this point.
But if you do go to the point, make sure you do not create a paradox. Otherwise, you can't go back to New York in 1939. That's all I'm saying.
Oh God. Please watch it. Tasha's saying, I will. I will. And let me just say this before we give our ratings. And if you have a rating for this episode, please start dropping it in the chat and we'll get to it. But let me just say that um I feel like even though we have a finality to the story of Star Trek Discovery, there's still room to play in between the seams. There's still room to play
Oh
even
yeah.
after the coda. I think they did a great job. Burnham still has Kovacs' secret infinity uh, pendant thing. So I feel like if they so chose to do a movie or come back in a time in between where we see the battle with the Breen and Dakota. I think they still have room to play in that space, and we know that they will since there is Star Trek Academy coming up. So yeah, I think there's still room to for these characters to come back. Excuse me. I think there's room for these characters to come back, and I hope they don't. I hope they do choose to continue to explore this playground that they've created in this far flung future. So yeah,
Discovery was, like I said, Discovery. It was my heart, and I know it was controversial to some people. I don't care. I don't care about any of that. I just say it was like another part of the Star Trek lore, another part of the history. And like I said, I'm so thankful that we got to take this journey with that
yeah,
cast for 5 seasons.
beautiful thing, beautiful thing. And with that, guys, for one last time, I'm sure we're going to revisit some of these episodes in the future. But for now, let's get ratings for this finale, Life Itself. Larry, do you want to start, sir? How would you
I
rate this
will.
episode, sir?
I'm going to give this episode 4.9 progenitor texts that I never got to see.
Well, progenitor texts.
Oh yeah, we don't know whose tech it was, do we?
Oh man, Mr. Jones, how would you rate this one, sir?
I'm going to give this 5 out of 5 Michael Burnhams, but I still wish I would have seen Giorgio out of 5.
Yeah, she was definitely
Yeah.
missed. Yeah, it's a 5 from Cal. I'm going to give this 5 out of 5 Discovery saucer separations out of 5.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, man, this left me fed. It left me fed. And I could walk away saying that I enjoyed the series, and of course I'm gonna revisit it. I'm really glad that we at the beginning of before the season started, we went back and looked at all the seasons, kind of gave our thoughts on the rest of the, the
Hmm.
the show, and I think it makes me want to go back. Even it gives me the drive to go back and watch it again. So I can't wait to do that.
So, from the guy who did go back and watch it again, yes, you need to go back and watch it again.
It's always
Hey,
in my heart.
and since this is the finale of Discovery, I want to give the entire series 5 black alerts out of 5. There you go.
The good old black alerts. Let's see what the chat thinks. Retney gives this 5 out of 5 progenitors. Nice. Tasha gives this 5 out of 5 years. We'll have to wait for a Paramount Plus movie about Kraft/Zora. Let's hope it's not 5 years. And Reddy said not 5 years. But yeah, I think it was a great end to the series, and I'm sure we're going to explore this again in the future. Next week, I think we're going to hit news, and maybe if we have further thoughts, maybe if some more news about the finale came out, maybe we'll cover that as well. But we're definitely going to do news next week, and I encourage each and every one of you, if you love science fiction, the current season of Doctor Who has been stellar, and although divisive in some aspects. But we're going to talk about it tomorrow night on the Discussing Network channel with Discussing Who and Cal Jones leading the way on that initiative. Cal, anything to get this crowd into the
Yes.
chat?
So if you've
Any
watched Discussing
teasers?
Trek, for the most part, you'll hear Clarence and I agree 90%, 95% of the time. I will give you a little hint. Clarence does not agree with me about the latest Dot and Bubble episode of Discussing Who, or Doctor Who, that we will be discussing Who about. So if you want to see Clarence and I not agree, tune in tomorrow night.
It's going to be a knockdown drag out. And Larry, do you have any place you'd like to point people to follow you? I know you thinking about doing some Game of Thrones stuff when it comes back out, the new season of
I am. I have to get with you and Kyle and teach me the roundabouts. But I was thinking about doing a review of the second season of House of the Dragon,
yes.
which is phenomenal beyond belief. But other than that, I'm just chilling. Can't wait to listen to you guys tomorrow night.
Cool. Yeah, and with that, guys, we're going to kind of wrap this thing up. Thanks to each and every one of you guys for being here. Of course, we had Win Grace, we had Tasha, we had Retney. Anybody else that I've missed? We had David Lancaster here as well. I'm sure there's others as witnessed by the count that I can see in my window here. Thank each and every one of you guys for being here. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, until next time, live long and prosper.